Well, I really don't know where to start. Um, but we're just gonna dive right into it. Um, so if you've been following my channel and know me personally, or have followed my Twitter, or listened to the NBA News podcast with my friend David, you will know that I am a major Bulls fan, huge Bulls fan. Um, I do live in Illinois, so gotta support hometown. Um, and if you've been keeping up with what's been going around the NBA, um, you will know that Fred Hoiberg has been fired today on December 3rd of 2018. Um, and it's been an event. It's a very eventful day for the Bulls and Bulls fans. I'm currently recording this at like late, um, late Monday night, so the news did happen today. But um, this is just my reaction, really, to what happened today. If you've been following my Twitter at Duncan_White14, you will know that I am very conflicted right now. But as the day has gone on, and I haven't tweeted out in a while, but as the day has gone on, I'm leaning more and more towards that this was a good move. But I'll get into that a little bit later. Before I continue though, make sure you leave a like on this video, subscribe to my channel for more NBA content, follow me on Twitter at Duncan_White14, and make sure to comment down below on your reaction and thoughts on the Fred Hoiberg firing. Because I know a lot of fans have different opinions, and I'm interested to hear. I'm more than willing to listen. So, just big day. When I got the notification that Fred Hoiberg was fired, I was just like, no, right? No, no, that's not true. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, it's true. I'm like, man, there was so much speculation the previous night that I just kind of thought like, oh, this is nothing. Like when I was reading all like this articles like Fred Hoiberg's on the hot seat, and I'm just like, nah, come on, like that's not true. Well, then it becomes true. It was very obvious he was on the hot seat because he got fired. And I was just like, okay. And then I hear that Jim Boylen's going to be now promoted to head coach, and the permanent head coach, not intern, but permanent. I'm like, okay, what just happened? That was basically my reaction. And at that time, I was very conflicted because I am in agreement that Fred Hoiberg did not have a fair chance to coach his team, but it's so hard to ever be able to coach your team that you would preferably have, like certain players and everything. It's so hard to get that in any NBA on any NBA team. You're not going to have your specific type of players always. But I will agree that the first year Hoiberg was head coach, you still had Pau Gasol, Joakim Noah, Jimmy Butler, like those guys, and obviously, that doesn't fit in Hoiberg's system, but I thought they were a disappointment that year. They didn't make the playoffs. It was disappointing. It's just disappointing in my opinion. And then the next year you bring in Rondo and Wade, so now you have a trio of Butler, Wade, Rondo, and that got off to a hot start. They finish the season off at 500, so kind of disappointing. But then they're up 2-0 against the Celtics, and then Rondo gets injured, and that apparently you can't win without Rondo all of a sudden. And that's where I'm just like, that's on the coach. I mean, Butler and Wade, you could kind of blame it on them, but like, it's also on the coach for not game planning. So yeah, I mean, this is just gonna be like an uncut video, so I'll try to keep it short, but I got a lot to like talk about and process. So it's just, I kind of already started though. Why, like, just kind of where I'm at right now. I'm leaning towards that this is a good decision for the Bulls, and I'll get to, there are multiple reasons why, but there are also multiple reasons why I'm kind of like maybe this wasn't the greatest idea. So I'm kind of just starting out like where Hoiberg has been a disappointment, and I just talked about the first year where they missed the playoffs. Second year with Butler, Wade, Rondo trio that got to 6 games against the Celtics, the first seed, but they lost 4 straight to end this playoff series. So that was also disappointing. And then last year, they made the trade for Jimmy Butler goes to Timberwolves. We get Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, Larry Markkinen back, and I like, in general, I like that move, the Jimmy Butler trade. I mean, obviously now looking at it, it's like, oh, Bulls won the trade, obviously, but it was time for the Bulls to restart at that time, and you had to move Jimmy Butler, and I'll explain why I trusted that move more later, which I think is a very important key to this whole deal here with Hoiberg getting fired. But so Jimmy Butler gets traded. Now it's with Hoiberg. It's develop all the young guys. Just start building good habits. I thought Chris Dunn was very good last year. I thought Markkinen really showed like he's gonna be a good player last year in his rookie season. Bobby Portis really made improvements. Denzel Valentine made improvements. I was very pleased to see all that. However, I thought there were some habits being formed that were not very good. Like they weren't winning habits. For example, and I think this is more on Fred than anything, and it could be on Chris Dunn too because he's also the point guard. But even with Ryan Arcidiacono in the game now, I don't really see it as much, and I think it's more on Hoiberg than the point guard. But whenever a small guy has to guard a big guy, so if you run pick and roll and the point guard has to guard Larry Markkinen, or the point guard has to guard Robin Lopez, or the point guard has to guard Wendell Carter Jr., or Bobby Portis, whoever it is, no matter what, you should exploit that matchup immediately. You need to put the big man down to the post and just beat up the small guy. It's going to do either one of two things. You're either going to score because the big man is so much bigger than the smaller point guard, or they're going to have to, the defense is forced to double team, which is going to be open shots for somebody else on the team. That's either, kick out, swing, corner 3, or make a cut to the basket, layup, dunk. It's going to be something like that. For some odd reason, Hoiberg really never exploited that. And I was very shocked to see that. And even some of the greatest teams, the Warriors, Celtics, Rockets last year and kind of this year, especially the Pelicans, whenever they get a mismatch, they exploit it. And that's something that you need to do, especially today's NBA game where you cannot foul. Like, you cannot touch a guy or else it's going to be called a foul. So that's where I was just like, there were many things with Hoiberg's system that I was like very, very upset at. And so I wasn't ever really a fan of Hoiberg, but I'm going to get to the other part now. Yes, it is true that the first 2 seasons Hoiberg was with the Bulls, it wasn't very good in general for the Bulls as a franchise, but like he didn't have the players that fit his system on the team. Understandable. But last year, while players made good progress, there again, like I said, there were habits that were kind of not being that there were bad habits being formed. But the argument for that Hoiberg shouldn't have been fired is like, all right, he didn't have his team the first 2 years. Last year was a rebuild year. Okay. What else do you have after that? This year specifically, I know they're 5-19 right now. And Larry Markkinen has been out. He's only played 1 game. Chris Dunn has only played 1 game. Bobby Portis has only played 4 games, and Denzel Valentine is out for the season. So, I mean, I get it. 3 of your top 6 players are out. So you're probably not gonna you're not gonna be a good team. And here's the thing, though. Even when everyone gets back, I don't like the Bulls aren't getting back up to 500. I think they could go 500 though from here on out. But like I don't know what that like goes to. It's gonna be like 35 and something. So, my point is though, yes, Hoiberg didn't have everybody healthy, so it's kind of like not a fair chance. But I do think that it the issue here was that bad habits are still being formed. While Zach LaVine has now become an all-star, in my opinion, and probably most improved player, Jabari Parker has finally started to show himself. Wendell Carter Jr. has had a good rookie season. Ryan Arcidiacono has become, the second coming of Kirk Heinrich. The thing is that the Bulls, there wasn't really, even with, if Chris Dunn, Markkanen, and Portis all came back, there was no identity to the Bulls. There was still no identity. And what John Paxson kind of said today is that the energy is just kind of low. And, Bobby Portis is your energy guy. Chris Dunn is your bulldog. Getting Markkanen back, you kind of think, all right, well, maybe there's going to be more of a spark in the team. Apparently the front office didn't think that. And to be honest, now that I start kind of thinking about it, they're right. The front office was right. That there was no spark really happening. There was no energy. And Hoiberg's such a laid-back guy that you didn't really expect any change to kind of happen. So there's that, and that's where I'm like, yeah, this probably was maybe the best move now, especially because now you just got Markkanen back. So maybe changing the identity of the team a little bit, exploiting matchups better, especially put Markkanen in the post. And defensively, I don't always understand what Hoiberg's doing. I thought defensively when the Bulls blitzed, so basically just double team the ball handler on any pick and roll to force him to get rid of the ball. I thought that was the best defense, especially with Wendell Carter Jr. Because Wendell's so mobile and active that he can cover up for when they run blitz defense. I wasn't a fan of switching, which Hoiberg decided to do a lot, especially in the wings, and it's just like it just drove me insane. Like I don't want Jabari Parker guarding a point guard. That's just my opinion though. It's just this year, while Hoiberg was not in a fair position, there are other things though. There are other parts to a basketball game and being a head coach that has to be a staple for you to be a good head coach, even if all your guys are out. And that's playing hard every single night. Make sure guys are looking at film. Make sure you're running the right plays and everything. You're building good winning habits. And to be honest, I don't think that was happening under Hoiberg. I really don't think it was. And he's a college coach, so there's just differences. And they kind of brought him in hoping he's going to be like Brad Stevens, but Brad Stevens is a genius. Hoiberg clearly is not. So it just wasn't a good fit. It wasn't at a good time for the Bulls. I know I'm kind of all over the place. I'm sorry, but that's just kind of where my mind is. It's just I'm all over the place, and I might make another video making things more simpler because I'm just kind of jumping back and forth, and I'm sorry, but that's just kind of where my mind is. But I do want to point out one thing, and I'll try to keep focused on this. One thing that I have noticed, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe it was 3, but when they're in the front office for the Bulls, John Paxson and Gar Forman. John Paxson is vice president of basketball operations. Gar Forman is the general manager. There was a time where John Paxson just kind of like, all right, I'm just going to kind of take a laid-back approach here. I'm not going to be that involved in many decisions. I'm going to let Gar run the show. When Gar ran the show, I don't think it was very good decisions. It was mostly, for example, you draft Marquise Teague instead of like Draymond Green. But I'm not gonna really look at draft picks. But the decision making for the team was not very solid. When I think, and this may not be 100% true, but when I think Gar Forman was basically kind of running the show, I don't think John Paxson really took over as like, all right, I'm gonna be the final decision maker here. I'm gonna really make my own decisions at some points and have my presence be known. I think that was like 2 years ago when Paxson like really stepped back up into his role. So Gar Forman, when he was kind of running the show, though, I think that the team went on a downfall. For example, you didn't re-sign Nate Robinson after he saved you in the playoffs. Didn't re-sign Marco Bellinelli. Those guys left. Now the team still played well, but like you lacked depth that the year after. It was just horrible. You lose first round to the Wizards, and then you trade your 15th and 20th pick, which is Gary Harris and Yusuf Nurkic, two good starters now in today's game. You traded that for Doug McDermott, who is now getting paid in Indiana, but he's just a shooter. You thought he was going to be your next major scorer because he averaged like 28 in college, but he clearly was not. He's just a shooter, not a good defender. You thought it was worth giving up both the 15th and 20th pick for Doug McDermott, who was the 11th pick. Okay. What did Doug McDermott become? It became Doug McDermott and Taj Gibson, who was loved by many Bulls fans, heart and soul of the team. Taj Gibson, I love Taj Gibson. You traded Doug McDermott and Taj Gibson for Cameron Payne. Cameron Payne. You also got in that deal Anthony Morrow and Joffrey Laverne, but they're both off the team right now. I think that was still under Gar Forman was still running the front office and was still in charge of things. Not to mention also the Luol Deng trade, when Luol Deng turned down an extension from the Bulls. They're like, all right, it's either you take it or we trade you. He decided to not take it, so they traded him to Cleveland. We got back in return Andrew Bynum. We waived him immediately. And a bunch of first-round picks. That was the Kings pick. But it was just a bunch of protections on it, though. It was just so if we didn't get that pick that year, you would get in the next year, but there was a protection on that. So then if you don't get it that year, there's another protection. So if you don't, and it's just a bunch of stuff. But you think that you get the pick, but we never got the pick. It ended up being a second rounder, which I believe I may be wrong in this, but I believe that turned into Jordan Bell, which then we traded for $3.5 million. Again, so Luol Deng became $3.5 million. Luol Deng was a 2-time All-Star for the Bulls. One of the best defenders in the league at the time. Great 3-point shooter. Great defender. Just was all-around solid player, especially perfect for Derrick Rose when he was in his prime. You trade him for $3.5 million. Not looking too good. I think John Paxson really took over. When he really took over, I think the Bulls really started going to a better direction. Because when Forman took over, it's just kind of you're slowly kind of going down. I mean, granted, it was probably from when Derrick Rose tore his ACL. That's when the downfall for the Bulls really started happening. But then once Rose tore his ACL, Forman was really in charge of everything. He slowly just started getting worse, and worse, down to all of a sudden being, 500 team. You're just mediocre. You're not really going anywhere. So John Paxson then stepped in and was like, all right, I'm making a decision now. And I thought that he was the one that pulled the trigger on the Jimmy Butler trade. And it at least gave the team a direction. Because before, it's just we don't even know where they're going to end up. Are they going to be third in the East, contender? Or are they going to be at the bottom or just flat out in the middle, which they were? So pulling the trigger on the Jimmy Butler trade, that's when John Paxson really took over. And ever since then, I think it's been better for the Bulls. The one thing I do want to hit, though, was that Gar Forman was the one that wanted Fred Hoiberg to be head coach. It wasn't really John Paxson, if you remember. John Paxson was just, he just was kind of he was just on board with it. He thought, it was a good idea, so it just kind of happened. He's just all right, yeah, I agree. Gar Forman was the one that really had the relationship with Fred Hoiberg. We have to remember that. And at the press conference when Hoiberg was first hired, Forman kept stressing the importance of having that relationship with the head coach because with Tibbs, they didn't really have that relationship. So Forman was really stressing all right, it's important to have that relationship with the head coach. Paxson never really said that. So now we come to here, and it's very clear that Paxson was the one that made the decision today to fire Hoiberg. Paxson was one at the press conference, and it's with Jim Boylen. And Paxson, and and Gar Forman wasn't there. The last season too, Gar Forman has with Gar Forman, like you see him at the beginning of the season for talking about the season and everything, the media day, and then you don't ever see him ever again for the rest of the season. Maybe at some point the All-Star break, but you never ever see him again. Even at the end of the year, it was just John Paxson doing the end of the year press conference. You didn't see Gar Forman anywhere because Gar Forman apparently was on a scouting trip. My point is that I think when John Paxson is running the front office, things run more smoothly. And because the fact that John Paxson made this decision today to make Jim Boylen head coach, permanent head coach for right now, and it's looking like he's going to be long-term head coach and he's given the chance right now. Because Paxson made that decision, I have more faith that this was the right decision. If this was Gar Forman making that decision, one, it's turning back on his words because he was the one that really wanted to hire Hoiberg. But two, because of the decision-making that he has made in the past, if Forman was the ultimate one to make that decision today, I would have less faith. But because Paxson clearly was the one that made the decision, now, granted, it's a collective agreement, a collective decision, but Paxson is really at the head of it because he was the one doing the press conference with Boylen. It was very clear he was the one that really pulled the trigger. Because Paxson made the decision, I have more faith that this is going to be a good move for the Bulls. So now I want to talk about Jim Boylen because now we're gonna get to see him and be in charge of an NBA team. Jim Boylen, a guy he's respected across the league. I believe he has around 20 years of NBA experience as assistant coach and around 13 years of college coaching, which don't quote me on that. It's somewhere around there. In total, I think he has around 33 years of experience coaching basketball. He was the associate coach under Greg Popovich, and we all know Greg Popovich and his assistants they usually become head coaches, and they're usually good. So because of that, I feel comfortable with this, having Jim Boylen be the head coach. He even said it today. He's a more passionate coach than Hoiberg is, which you need that because Hoiberg sometimes just kind of looks disinterested, and it's just like, do you really care about the team, or do you really care about the players, or are you just kind of there? With Boylen, he's always the one that's kind of yelling out defensive sets, or he's the one, sometimes even calling plays, or he's really the one that's really getting into and coaching guys on the sidelines. And that's something Hoiberg just really never did, in my opinion. So I think that's what Boylen will bring to the team, is a guy who's going to really make sure guys know what they're doing on the court, and even when off the court, they're making sure they're looking at the guy they're going to be guarding when they check in. They're running through offensive sets in their heads, even though they're on the bench. They're engaged while they're on the bench. They're engaged while even just at any point they have to be engaged, even when they're not playing, and they may not even play that night. That's where I think Boylen's going to really change the identity and culture of this Bulls team, because we have to be honest here with Hoiberg, and I know it wasn't really a fair chance, but we have to still understand with Hoiberg, did we ever know his identity? Did we ever know what his intentions were with this team? I really don't think we did. I really can't lay a finger on, all right, that's what Hoiberg wanted from the Bulls. That's what Hoiberg's vision was. With Jim Boylen, because he was under Greg Popovich, he's gonna be emphasizing ball movement. Because Greg Popovich and the Spurs, they've always moved the ball. That's number one. Two, I think Boylen will exploit matchups. I really think he's going to do that. Because he was under Greg Popovich, who's one of the smartest coaches in the world. So because he has that mind of Popovich, they have to exploit matchups. Like, Boylen will do that. I have faith that he will do that. Three, it's just you know, it's just identity and just having more passion, and wanting to win games. Like with Boylen now in charge of everything, I think the Bulls are going to be playing with more of a chip on their shoulder. I think they're going to be playing harder, and their offense, I think, is going to be better because I think there's going to be more of an identity to their offense. With Hoiberg, it was just a lot of like handoffs, and not like floppy action handoffs, and then it's just curl screens and some pick and roll. I at times it's hard to even know, like, even if like you're in the offense, you're just kind of like, sometimes you just see the offense just get stagnant because you're just like, well, the defense kind of already figured us out. They already kind of know what we're doing. So what are we gonna go to? I think Boylen would change that. I don't think the offense is gonna be stagnant anymore, and it's gonna have constant movement, but have different movements, different motions to keep the defense honest. It's not so you're not running the same play 3 times in a row to end a quarter. So that's where I think Boylen's going to really change the Bulls, is having more offensive movement with different looks each time coming down the floor to keep the defense honest. And in doing so, you're going to get other guys also involved and more engaged into the game. Like, he's probably going to get Wendell Carter Jr. more touches to keep him engaged in the game. Hopefully he doesn't get in foul trouble then. Like, just those little things that I don't think Hoiberg really saw. I think Boylen's going to be able to fix those things very, very well. So, yeah, I am conflicted because like I do agree that I don't think Hoiberg was given a fair chance, but we also have to remember that the best coaches, they always adapt to their players. As a coach, you're not gonna get everything the way you want it. I mean, that's just given. You're not gonna get everything. You're not gonna get the players you want 100%. Like, you're not gonna get a perfect 3-and-D guy at small forward that could potentially turn into a star. Like, you're just not gonna get that. It's just how it is. The best coaches always adapt to or they always figure out what is their team's or players' strengths, and how can we use their strengths to cover up for the weaknesses. That's a good head coach. That's the difference between a head coach and like a good head coach, and also like a great head coach. What I think about is with Greg Popovich. I know this is a star player and a head coach, but with LaMarcus Aldridge and Greg Popovich, LaMarcus Aldridge wanted to get out of San Antonio, but he took the time to sit down with Greg Popovich and say, like, hey, I'm not really comfortable in the offense that we're running here. I want to be here more. I want to get to my spots more. And Popovich thought he was an idiot because he's just like, I probably should have known that. And what did he do? He adjusted. He made sure now that he was running the offense for LaMarcus Aldridge to get to his spots, get to that right block so he can turn over that left shoulder and hit that fadeaway post-up jumper. It's those types of things. And that's my point, is that Popovich adjusted for his players. That's what makes him a fantastic coach. That's what makes him one of the greatest coaches of all time. With Hoiberg, we keep talking about he didn't have his players. He didn't have a fair chance. Well, you have to understand, while yes, that is true, you also have to adapt and find out your team's strengths as a coach and use those strengths to help your team win. And adapt to what your player what the players that you have, and try to use their strengths to cover up for the weaknesses. And like, my point is, you look at the first year, Pau Gasol, Joakim Noah, and Jimmy Butler all there. It's like things were kind of all discombobulated. Like, and they tried picking up the offensive pace a little bit more. Like, and in the preseason, it looked kind of good because you're shooting a lot of threes, but then you realize that this team isn't a great three-point shooting team, so then you have to know that you have to take less threes, and it kind of got to there, but then you try to give you don't really give Gasol as much of a chance because then you're not really utilizing him as much, and it's just that like my point is like you're not really using your players to the best of their capabilities, and that's where my argument is. It's like, yeah, he didn't have the fair chance, but he still had a good team around him. He just never got that team to their full potential. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here, but I just kind of want to lay down just like my main points. Is yes, Hoiberg did not have a fair chance, but the great coaches, they always adapt for their players. Like I said with Greg Popovich and LaMarcus Aldridge, they adapt to their players and use their players' strengths for the better of the team to cover up the weaknesses. This season right now going on 5-19 for the Bulls. It's not a good record. Yes, they've had players out, but you've had so many blown out like losses, and that's just unacceptable. You lose by like I didn't even watch the Warriors game. I didn't even want to. I recorded it and I deleted that recording immediately. I didn't watch a single second of that Warriors game. But you cannot lose to how many points it was. I think it was 50 to the Warriors. You cannot give up 11 3-pointers to Klay Thompson. Or what was it, 13 3-pointers? Either way, though, a good coach knows that you have to, no matter what, deny Klay Thompson the ball, and also the fact that you have to, if he ever gets the ball, you got to like foul him or just get the ball out of his hands. Hoiberg never made that adjustment. That's where I think Boylen's going to make that adjustment. That's going to be the difference. And now 3 is that I believe that because John Paxson made this move, that this was the correct move for the Bulls today. And now it's obviously going to be an adjustment period, but because the fact that it's also an adjustment period because guys are coming back, I think it's good because with now Markkanen's back, and that was a great surprise for the Rockets game. But Chris Dunn and Bobby Portis coming back, and it's also, you know, we're only 26 games into the season. It allows for everybody to get adjusted before we really start looking at what the Bulls are going to actually be. You know, Markkanen, Dunn, Portis, once they're going to come back, they need to get their conditioning though. So that's going to be an adjustment period for everyone to get their timing right. And then once everyone's healthy and they're all 100% healthy, they're going to be playing their maximum minutes per night. You got the rotation set, which I think is going to also be something fixed under Boylen. Hoiberg's rotations are kind of whack to me. Once that's all set and all the players are ready to go, then we're really going to see what the Bulls are, and the players and coaches are all going to be adjusted already, and there's no more adjustment period going on. So I think this was the right time. I am still kind of conflicted because I do still believe like he really didn't have a fair chance, and I kind of know that feeling. So I see the argument, and it's a good point. But there were just so many things that you cannot look past when you try to evaluate this decision by the Bulls. And I ultimately think that this was the correct decision to do today. Okay. I'm sorry for just kind of, I got so off track there, and it's just because I could talk about the Bulls all day, and this was just a shock to me, and this is kind of what was going through my head immediately right when I heard the news. It was just like all that stuff was running through my head, and like nothing was really organized. It was just kind of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And all this is going through my head. I'm just trying to analyze this, and yeah, like you can even see on my Twitter, like I was kind of like contradicting myself, but I think, I mean, my opinion could change easily, like, you know, 3 weeks from now, but I ultimately think that this was the correct decision to do today. And what I'm looking for now, again, the Tuesday night's game against Indiana, which should be later tonight when I release this video. It should be released Tuesday morning, December 4th. I am looking for, I'm really looking at how the offense is going to be run, or really I should start with how do the Bulls come out the gate, because that was something like the Bulls get off to slow starts. that needs to be fixed. Can Boylen fix that? How's the offense going to be run? Is it going to be the same, or is it going to be different? I think it's going to be much different. I think we're going to see different plays, and I'm really looking forward to that, especially now Markkanen starting. Defense. Are we sticking with the defense that I think has worked well this year, but for some odd reason Hoiberg would change it mid-game for absolutely no reason at all? I think the blitz defense works the best for the Bulls. That's just me personally, but we'll see about that. Who initiates offense now? I'm actually like really interested in that because no Chris Dunn yet, but Zach has initiated the offense. He's kind of been running the point and being the playmaker. I like Arcidiacono getting guys in his in their sets though, so I'm actually really interested to see that. And they've even said that Markkanen will bring the ball up sometimes, and it's not like he gets the ball immediately out of bounds, but like they'll give it to him at like half court, and like they'll run the offense through him. So it's interesting, and that was actually one of the plays I liked. But I'm interested to see if they'll continue doing that and how much they will do that. And mid game is, can you consistently keep your good defense when the bench comes in, and can you consistently score and have so good player movement and ball movement when your bench guys come in? So it's just that's what I'm looking at that. No, I don't think Oladipo's playing, so unfortunately I'm not gonna be able to see how they're gonna take on a star, but I guess we'll see that in later games. And then how do the Bulls close? One of the main issues for the Bulls this season and last season too is just the Bulls cannot close. Even with Zach, it's been better this year, but that's because Zach LaVine has become an all-star and a clutch shot maker. The best teams, though, while yes, usually they just kind of give it to their star and they're like, all right, it's ISO go. They still kind of run a play instead of just kind of doing like a 24-second, just everyone stand still and let this man just dribble out the clock and then hopefully make the shot. Like, if you look at the Raptors, even with like Kawhi Leonard, they run the play still. There's still a play being run to get Leonard in a good position to then score the bucket late game situation. That's what the Bulls need to do more. And under Pop, that's something they've always done very well, especially with the Tim Duncan and Tony Parker pick and roll and getting Ginobili for a good 3-point shot. That's what the Spurs did very well, and when Boylen was there as assistant coach. So I think hopefully Boylen will help that in late game situations. And finally, this is very big to me because I can talk about rotations all day, and I think people kind of find it weird that I know when guys come out of the game and when guys come back into the game. Like, I could tell you like a lot of rotations, and I could tell you the Thunder rotation right now. But I am really looking at rotations and how and what different lineups Boylen puts out there on the floor. Like, I'm interested because now Jabari Parker's coming off the bench again, so I'm very interested to see the rotations. And does Parker come in early? Does he come in late? Does he come in early, sub out, and then come in and finish out the second and fourth quarters? Like, I'm very interested to see how Boylen is gonna run his rotations, and is it gonna be 9-man, 10-man? With Hoiberg, he likes to run 10 guys, which I think that's a little too many guys, especially because of all the players we have in our squad, and we don't even have Chris Dunn or Bobby Portis back. So I'm very interested to see if Boylen only runs 9 guys, which I really want him to do. So that's all the stuff I'm looking for. Not only Tuesday night, but also the rest of the season. This is Boylen's chance to be a head coach, and he has all season, the rest of this season, to do it. So I wish him the best of luck. I really hope Jim Boylen is gonna help this Bulls squad just develop and just build good winning habits, because good winning habits is gonna get you farther along the road than a lot of people think. So Hoiberg, though, my message is that thank you for your time in Chicago. While I wasn't ever really a fan of you, I never really hated you. There are many decisions that you made that I've questioned. But again, I'm not a head coach. But I do wish the best for Fred, and he says he wants to still coach in the NBA. I don't know about coaching, like as a head coach, but maybe assistant coach. I think a team will pick him up as an assistant coach. He has worked in the front office before, so maybe he'll go back to there, but we'll see. And with that, though, I'm going to wrap up this video. I just realized I talked for 40 minutes, and that was not my expectation. I was not planning to talk that long. Ugh. Thank you guys so much for watching this long video about just Fred Hoiberg and the Bulls. Crazy news today, just have to say, and a crazy way to start off the week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you leave a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel for more NBA content. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Duncan_White14. And that is where I posted my initial reactions. So definitely go follow me on Twitter to see my analysis and for later and more other Bulls stuff. So make sure you go do that. Make sure you comment down below what are your thoughts on the Fred Hoiberg firing. You've heard my thoughts. Agree, disagree? I'm very interested to hear. All right. I talked way too long. I'll end this now. This is Duncan White signing off for now.